Today marks an annual event that we celebrate every year, Tourism Kingston and CAP combined. So it's our Tourism Awareness Week. Now, generally speaking, we would meet in person and we would celebrate this at Memorial Hall typically. And we would like to highlight, as we normally do, all the great things that are going to happen in tourism for the coming sort of main season, as we call it. So some will change this year, some won't. I think what we want to say and suggest to all our partners on the line today is that we do have things to celebrate this year, and the first of which is actually a new award in the area of tourism. So we had a discussion about a month and a half ago at our board meeting, and we talked about Tourism Awareness Week, and we talked about all the great things that our staff have done last year and all of the things that we're working really hard on this year as it relates to the new normal. And one thing we identified that we wanted to do new for Tourism Awareness Week, virtually this year and hopefully in person for for all years after this, is that we wanted to create a first annual and then every year after award to give to a local student, a St. Lawrence College student. And we did talk at our board about the loss and really the heavy hearts we still have in regards to the loss of Gerard Hunt. So Gerard was a great CIO, but more than just that, he was a great champion of tourism. And so what I've asked is that Mayor Paterson join us today before we get into celebrating Tourism Awareness Week and go through all the recovery plans that staff have been working hard on, and then go through all the questions and answers that many partners on the line may have, because really this whole hour is about dialogue, because I think that's where our focus needs to be right now in terms of tourism, is how can we help partners. And so what we want to make sure is that we signify and recognize the impact that Gerard had on the tourism landscape and our community in general. So that's why I've asked Mayor Paterson, who is a member of the Tourism Kingston Board, to join us here today so that we can talk about and celebrate Gerard in this platform, as well as introduce the student who will be the recipient of this award. So that's kind of the agenda for today, is that we'll have greetings from the mayor. We have part of Gerard's family on the line today, which is lovely. And then we will recognize the first annual student who will receive this award, and then we'll go into our statistics and our recovery plans, and then lots of Q&A from our partners. So Mayor Paterson, I'm going to throw the mic over to you.
All right, thanks very much, Megan, and good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see all of you on the Zoom screen today, and just again really appreciate all the great work that you guys are all doing right now. This is a real honor and a privilege for me to be able to speak to this award that, of course, has been created in the memory of former City of Kingston CAO Gerard Hunt. And the award, as Megan has said, is recognizing a graduating student from the tourism program at St. Lawrence College, who has demonstrated leadership and compassion and a love for the community. And it really is a tribute, I think, to Gerard's strength in building those partnerships across the community. And I know that the student who's receiving this award definitely exemplifies that collaboration and that commitment to partnership. As Megan mentioned, it really is tremendous to have some of Gerard's family on the call. I know that his wife Kim is on the call, and his children, Greg, Thomas, and Caitlin as well. So it's just really appreciate that you guys have been able to make the time to be on this call. I had a chance to work with Gerard for about 8 years, 4 years as city councillor and another 4 years as mayor. And I have to say this, he wasn't just like the CAO of the City of Kingston because it was a job. He loved this community. He believed in this community. He was always talking about all the great things that were going on in Kingston. He was like genuinely fueled and excited by what was going on in the city. I remember when we were putting together the tourism strategy for how to bring people to the community. I remember we had a focus group this one day, and we were supposed to meet, him and I were supposed to meet with this consultant for about 20 minutes. The discussion went on for like an hour and a half because like he was just like so excited, and then we were talking, and we were just kind of fueling off of each other, and it was like it was just such a memorable meeting because everything that was inside Gerard was just coming out, and it was really, I think, the perfect picture that demonstrated about how he wasn't just somebody that was interested in city operations. He was a big picture thinker that always thought about what was going on in the community as a whole. If you ever saw Gerard in public, he was always super, super professional. But it's the behind the scenes moments that I think I remember the best. He loved to laugh. We would have like these great laughs, like after city council meetings, and like crazy stuff would be going on. We would just laugh and just try to connect on a personal level. But I have to say that one of the things that always struck me about Gerard is his humility, that he always wanted to make other people look good. In fact, I'll never forget this. He said to me one time, he said, "Brian, my job is to make city council look good." And I remember he would always work behind the scenes, and whether it was myself or city council or other tourism partners, he was always trying to make other people look good. And he never seemed to need to want to take the credit for all the work and all the things that he would do behind the scenes. But he was a real team player, and I think if I can close with this, he cared genuinely about people. He was always talking about not what people were doing, but like, how are they? And I remember when I first became mayor, he would regularly take me aside and he would ask me how my family's doing, how am I doing personally. He would always try to bring things in perspective and say, we can work really hard, but don't forget about the things in life that matter the most. Always make sure you're taking care of your family and that you're taking care of yourself. And those moments never left me. I remember after my father died, he walked into the office one day and he put his arm around me and just asked, how am I doing? And I think it was just a perfect illustration of how he genuinely was fueled by seeing other people succeed. And he created these awards for city employees, and he was so excited to celebrate the success of others. And I think that if I can say, that's why I think this tourism award is such a perfect legacy for Gerard, because that was what fueled him more than anything else, recognizing the accomplishments and the success and the good work of somebody else. And I know that we have a student today that has definitely earned that. So I just want to say thanks to everybody for just that chance to be able to speak about Gerard and that legacy. And again, really real thanks to Megan, everybody at Tourism Kingston for making that reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Paterson. And so with that, we're going to, normally this is when Mayor Paterson would tangibly hand a student over this award, but we're going to work with our virtual scenario. So Kimberly Locke has joined us today. Kimberly is a graduating student from St. Lawrence College in the Tourism and Hospitality program. So Kimberly has prepared a few words, and I'm going to throw the mic over to Kimberly to accept her award.
Hi, everyone. Happy Tourism Week. I just want to say that I'm really honored to be the first recipient of the Gerard Hunt Tourism Award. I'm inspired by Mr. Hunt's involvement in the Kingston tourism community and his efforts and success at making tourism in Kingston what it is today. Over the last 2 years, my teachers have given me the tools and have encouraged me to develop all the skills that I need, and it should help me every step of the way. And I know that I'm now prepared to take on the necessary challenges in becoming a leader in my career. I've decided to follow a career in the culinary segment of the tourism industry, like with a specific focus on wine. I've managed to secure a job with a winery in Niagara right now, and I'm looking forward to putting everything that I learned to the test. And I'd really like to thank Tourism Kingston and the family of Mr. Hunt for the wonderful award. And then I'd also like to thank all my teachers at St. Lawrence who've helped me along with my little journey. I'm beyond grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you for what you're going to sort of do for our industry going forward. We know now more than ever, we need really enthusiastic people like yourself who are leaders that can set us on the right path and road to recovery, which is my segue basically into what we're here to talk about today. And so with that, we're going to look at a recap of 2019 when the world looked a little bit different. And just trying to impress upon our tourism partners, first to say thank you, and two, to talk about the impact that tourism makes to our local economy. And so we've worked really hard in 2019 to be able to granularly bring you actual statistics in terms of what economic impact, when I say that, means or tied to exact examples and numbers. And so Kingston's visitor economy last year brought in roughly about 4.6 million visitors. That's a significant amount of visitation throughout the year. And tied to that is economic impact. And so it's really important to be able to, when we say that tourism is significant in the Kingston community, quantify that. And so over $500 million in economic impact to the city. It's a significant sort of portion of revenue that we count on, and it's a significant milestone that we want to try to mitigate for the next few years as we try to figure out our plans going forward in this new era of COVID. Room nights are important, always important, because we know that that's tied to the municipal accommodation tax. So the health of our hotel community means the health of our marketing and sales units. All are sort of intertwined and tied together, and then day versus night visitors. And so we're always at Tourism Kingston working really hard to increase the amount of visitation overnight, equally as trying to increase the amount of visitation in the day. Impact's not just general, it's per segment as well. So we're just waiting for the slides to turn. So we work in many different segments. All of the staff at Tourism Kingston are on the line today, and they're going to speak to their recovery plans as it relates to their sector. But just generally speaking, travel trade was a significant portion of business that focused on air, focused on rail, it focused on tire traffic, as we call it, bus market specifically, and it also focuses on now cruising traffic. So there's lots of great things happening in travel trade that this year will be, focused on trying to mitigate the sort of issues that come with that type of thing in COVID, but focusing on all the positives that we know we'll get back to in 2021, such as all the trade shows that we attended, Sea Trade, Rendezvous, Bienvenue. And really what this slide shows is the amount of correspondence we have with significant buyers that are interested in sending more business or maintaining business that they send to Kingston. Meetings and conferences, another significant portion as it relates to overnights and as it relates to rooms that lead to additional bookings. So large conferences such as the AIDS conference and the Starbucks conference, conferences you probably wouldn't necessarily know happen in Kingston, but they are important and significant as it relates to meetings and conferences, because perpetually, if we do good customer service year one, then they tend to come back, and they come back in a larger force year 2, 3, and 4. And what's really important in the M&C areas is understanding that, again, we go to lots of trade shows, talk to lots of buyers about what's interesting and new in Kingston, because it's not just the conference itself, it's what conference attendees want to do before the conference, after the conference, and the way that we make them want to come back. So come back with their families, or come back in a leisure way instead of a work way. And so it's making sure that those connections that we basically gain or garner during meetings and conferences, that we continue to have those as visitation or call back to action to say, hey, come back to Kingston and enjoy, whenever that that summer, fall, or winter visit may be. So sport and wellness. Sport is a significant portfolio for the city of Kingston. Obviously, it's tied to a large number of room nights, over 10,000 last year. It's tied to significant trade shows where we go and present Kingston in front of buyers. 2 of which we went to last year that were significant to gain business. And it also is important in terms of international types of sporting events, as well as provincial, regional, and local. The ranking last year was significant, even better this year. So we were number 12 in the nation, and this year number 7th. So just depending on how many sporting events we host and the amount of room nights that are attributed with those types of things, our rankings year to year always punch above, sort of is what we say. We always punch above our weight in sport. Film. So film was a significant portion of our success story in 2019. Alex Jansen and his team in that portfolio worked very, very hard to create lots of day-long as well as overnight productions, as well as integrated lots of people within the community, such as St. Lawrence College and students, into actual productions, which is really important and tied to basically trying to lift the production economy in the local market. Significant ones to talk about were Murdoch Mysteries, Star Trek Discovery, which leads to a lot of overnight stays, as well as significant yield in the economy in terms of spending. And the Visitor Information Center, always an important center to have in your community. It's under renovation currently, but understanding that we log any kind of foot traffic that comes into the center, we try to always incentivize those folks to stay an extra night or come back as they're visiting the region and coming back through the other way. Understanding that we support many different partnership programs, such as the brochure racking program for partners, trying to make sure that folks that are visiting us understand what they can see and do in Kingston, as well as supporting local attractions that we sell on behalf of an attraction, the type of experiences that they themselves sell. So just making sure that that center is kind of a hub for tourism, and trying to innovate it year after year to make sure that we're serving the client the way that they want to be served. Meetings or marketing and communication. So a significant amount of work was done in that portfolio last year, and a really good transition happened. Generally speaking, Visit Kingston was housed under Kingston Accommodation Partners, and last year there was a great bridge and a great unification as it relates to marketing and communication, where now it sits with Tourism Kingston's umbrella. And so it wouldn't be without the hard work of a lot of partners around the table. And really, back to Mayor Paterson's point about the integrated destination strategy, that strategy gained us the roadmap that we needed to kind of fund and market Kingston in a way that was meaningful and significant. And it's led to our success. So of course, digital impressions are always high. Operator referrals are significantly important as it relates to marketing, because that's your ROI on the dollars you spend. Understanding lots of people check out visitkingston.ca and all of the great social we have happening. And understanding that social engagements are also important, and the timeliness of people recognizing that. And so at Ontario Tourism Award season every year, generally speaking, Kingston's always awarded 1 or 2, sometimes up to 4 awards. Again, we punch well above our weight in terms of marketing dollars that we do have to spend, but it's not without recognizing Alphabet Creative and a really great agency that works with us to make sure that we're articulating all the things to see and do in Kingston, and that we're we're gaining those in foot traffic as it relates to who's coming to the destination and how they're enjoying Kingston. Sorry, I'm just waiting for the slides to change. And then this slide goes over, so I'd like to introduce Crystal Leclerc. She is the Executive Director of Kingston Accommodation Partners, so she'll speak to these 2 slides.
Thank you so much, Megan, and hi, everybody. I'd like to start by mentioning that Kingston Accommodation Partners, we have over 50 properties. There are 3 new that are on the books to open eventually. Things have been kind of slowed down because of COVID, but we are expecting the Candlewood Inn, Holiday Inn Express Kingston West, and True by Hilton Kingston. Also, we have had 3 properties that have undergone some significant renovations. And one is just starting out. That will be the Secret Garden Inn, as as it was purchased by new owners here in the Kingston community in March. The Rosemont Inn was renovated and reopened in 2019 with substantial renovations. And again, the Frontenac Club Inn, which was fully renovated and is awaiting to reopen, which is fantastic for the community. Looking forward to kind of seeing them all up and running in full swing. On the advocacy side, so as Megan mentioned, 2019 was the full first year of the MAT collection, and the marketing has gone back over to Tourism Kingston. So CAP has a new vision, and it's around the advocacy piece, working in collaboration with all of our partners. Of course, we're very involved with ORMA, the Ontario Restaurant, Hotel and Motel Association, the Tourism Industry Association of Canada, the Hotel Association of Canada as well. And of course, we're also still very involved with TIO, the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario, and I sit on the Policy Advisory Committee there, and also on the Tourism, RTO 9 board as well. Some of the areas of focus, again, we've branched off as the advocacy arm for hotels as well as the broader tourism industry, and looking to the integrated destination strategies for some guidance. So things around access to Kingston Penitentiary, the airport expansion, downtown intensification, short-term accommodation regulation, looking at winter product and how we can build that in our community. And of course, the last few months have been focused heavily around survival and recovery with COVID. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time, and I will pass you back over to Megan, the Executive Director at Tourism Kingston, to talk about the 2020 recovery plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Krista. So I believe I'm actually introducing the first, Brittany, if you could just change the slide. Introducing our first recovery plan. So Abby Hillier is a new addition, a new team member, not to Kingston, but just to Tourism Kingston. So Abby's worked in our marketplace for quite a long time, and she brings a wealth of knowledge as it relates to travel trade. And each staff has stepped up above and beyond in this really unprecedented situation to assess what tourism is going to look like in 2020 and try to create a three-phased approach as it relates to recovery. So Abby's going to speak to her slide and then pass it along to those team members after.
Perfect, thank you, Megan. So as Megan said, I'm Abby and I'm the travel trade specialist now with Tourism Kingston. So we have split our recovery into three phases, the first being considered peak pandemic, which is what we are in now, so where we're facing really heavy travel restrictions and not a lot of movement. For travel trade, that means that we are engaging with partners such as yourselves to offer support where we can and ensure that we have a collective recovery effort. So when we are in recovery process, we want to make sure we're all on the same page, and a lot of that communication is happening now. We are working with both operators and clients within the travel trade markets to coordinate that product development roadmap. So what do they need when they return, and what does product look like for our partners here in Kingston? Is it reduced? Is it a slightly different look? And making sure we're making the best of that with our clients as well. We have spent a lot of time in gaining insights on what the industry recovery looks like and travel trends, especially within the travel trade market, because we're already looking at next year and the year after because this market works so far ahead. So gaining insights through webinars, presentations, and connecting with different DMOs and clients both throughout Canada and internationally, just so we can get the best feedback on what that might look like for the next couple of years and how we can position ourselves. Phase 2, we're looking at reduced restrictions, so that could be more of that regional travel, either hyper-local and starting to move into between Toronto, Ottawa, and within the province. For that, that means that we're changing to engage our partners from a stay home message to start planning. And that means any of our partners here in Kingston, how can we shift our messaging within the travel trade community to let's start planning for next year. We know that we have a bit of a go ahead on travel. So how can we get those clients up and running again? We've been starting to schedule sales calls with operators. At the beginning, we need to be very careful of what that tone looked like, but now more of them are looking for an actual sales opportunity and a learning opportunity. So they're saying, while we're all stuck at home in our own offices, I'd like to learn about Kingston as a destination so that we're ready to go and talk about it to our clients when we can. So that'll become more of a focus in phase 2, and then continue to get their feedback from their customers of what they're looking for in travel and what's important. We do want to leverage other opportunities such as packaging and leveraging the YGK airport for the recovery process. So how do we expand on different opportunities for Kingston as we're kind of reimagining ourselves through the recovery? Full recovery does mean we can travel again, and that means getting ourselves on the road to go and see people in person as well. In sales, that's really important. So it'll be great to be able to go and see clients in person, get to shake their hand, maybe from a distance, but really get them talking about travel within the domestic markets. We are seeing a lot of travel trade companies shift from the idea of volume travel with motor coaches, as physical distancing will be here to stay, and move more to an FIT model. And we're prepared to talk to them about how Kingston's the perfect FIT location and help them through that repivoting of their own business. That being said, we do want to continue the relationships with the international markets, because we know that as soon as they are able to travel again, even if it's a couple of years down the line, there'll be pent up demand. And the more we continue those relationships now, the better off that'll be for Kingston in the long run. We're on the same line, still prospecting all the Great Lakes cruise operations for 2021 and 2022 and beyond. These are all operations that aren't just looking at this year, so to make sure that we're on the same page as them and getting Kingston in front of them as early as possible for the next 3 to 5 years. That's it for travel trade, and I'll be passing it off to Alison Tonelli, our Director of Sales.
Hi everyone, I'm Alison Tonelli, Director of Sales, and also overseeing the sport and wellness. So as Abby was saying, phase 1, peak pandemic, we're going to continue to foster relationships with sport organizations, business operators, and third-party wellness companies. I'm working with the MC specialist, Jacob Shepherd, to update the sport and wellness guide, which has been posted online, and continue to represent Tourism Kingston in the community by being an active participant on boards and committees, as well as offer support where needed with recovery plans. In phase 2, which is reduced restrictions, this is when we start to really try and look at our leads and prospects at sport AGMs and conferences, start to plan sales missions, although we won't be able to go on them just yet, to hopefully Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, to meet with PSOs, and work with Kingston Accommodations to develop healthy hotel concepts for business leisure travelers, start working with partners to review incentive funding and understand the best ways in which we can offer support. And then in phase 3, full recovery, we'll source any new and existing grants that are offset bidding, to offset bidding and staging costs, meet face-to-face with right holders and entire traffic markets, and work with the meetings and conference specialists to bid on sport conferences and AGMs, and continue to develop critical paths for events in order to deliver excellent customer service. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to our meetings and conference specialist, Jacob Shepherd.
Hello, everyone. So the meetings and conferences recovery plan is a similar, been split into 3 phases. The first is really a stage of consultation, review, and planning with partners, event professionals, and industry experts. So we've been consulting with our community partners and serve the meetings and conferences industry, and we want to really build a collective sales effort when restrictions are reduced. So that's really a key part of this phase. Our team has also been working to do a review of all of our existing materials to ensure that our collateral, our websites, our messaging, it's all up to date, it's all accurate, it's describing Kingston as it is right now and will be in the future. We also have been developing new tools to utilize when the restrictions are removed, such as our facility guide that Alison mentioned. We have event safety commitment guidelines and guidelines for hosting maybe virtual or hybrid events when events start coming back again. Now, this phase has also had a lot of webinar education with industry professionals and roundtable discussions about the future of the event spaces, how the industry is going to evolve, and that's been a big part of this phase as well. Moving on to the second phase, this one involves a lot of outreach of event planners and industry networks, as there's going to be no really large conferences or events where we can meet people en masse. So during this stage, we need to really prepare our large citywide conferences that are booked in the future, so 2021 and beyond, to be ready for hosting in a post-COVID-19 world, because potentially there won't be a vaccine out there yet, so that we need to be working with them to prepare them and so that they're ready for it as well. Our primary channels for our outreach during this stage are social media, direct emails, phone calls, and using the event professional networks like CSAE and MPI. There are others as well, but those are our 2 primary ones that operate in the immediate hyperlocal market area. Now, we also want to leverage the use of the remainder of our 2020 incentive fund to book some last minute Q4 business. These dollars will be allocated to events that can utilize it to overcome potentially additional costs for increased safety measures, transportation to Kingston, or any other last minute hurdles. And then the third phase, this is kind of our full recovery defined as a full recovery. Tourism Kingston is going to increase our brand awareness through industry events as they happen. CSA is considering like a November event in Halifax, but it's still to be determined. So we're going to have to kind of play these large events as they play it by ear and attend them if we can. Now, our team's also going to resume face-to-face meetings during this stage with industry professionals in our regional markets of Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal. The travel between these cities is much more likely for meetings and conferences than international or even national meetings. So, and the focus of our sales activities is always to fill need periods. Previously, this has been kind of November to February, but we're going to have to consult with our partners in the coming months to identify other areas as cancellations come in and as we find other gaps in our bookings. So, and with that, that's kind of the end of the meetings and conferences. I'm going to pass it off to Alex Jansen, our film commissioner.
So phase one, we're actually in the midst of a couple pretty exciting production discussions when everything hit. So we're continuing to basically adjust those production schedules, see how we can resume them, and working with the productions which are basically stockpiling and getting ready in a backlog of production getting ready to go. So we've been working with the productions regularly onto that, connecting with the major industry organizations, weekly calls with the Ontario Film Commission, with various other different film commissions across the country, but also within the province, starting to figure out how best practices would look, what the safety measures would be to resume for production, and how we're basically gonna step forward onto that end. In the meanwhile, we've started moving online delivery of workshops and events. So we've done one workshop has already moved online. The event, so the weekend that everything broke was the 20th anniversary Kingston Canadian Film Festival. We've supported 15 local production companies on the creation of original music videos with more than 200 members of the community involved. We were able to, that canceled event, we were able to then stage it online, which went incredibly well. Had great turnout and been helping the Kingston Canadian Film Festival move some of their programming in general online. We've been continuing to, in the interim, start to use the time to start researching and identifying possible soundstage or studio locations, convertible warehouse space, exploring potential funding opportunities towards that, but specifically because there is going to be a perfect storm of a backlog of productions that are held, bumping into productions that are already booked beyond them in Toronto. So there's going to be the opportunity to capture some of that production. So again, having those active discussions and preparing for it. Also starting to use this time to revisit ways that we can potentially simplify some of the administration, specifically around the film policy. So looking at taking of those 15 production companies, starting to look at doing potential year-round permits as a trial, which would reduce some of the administrative load. As we start to go into phase two, the reduced restrictions, again, still hasn't been identified at what point, at what stage of the provincial program the film would be able to resume. But as it plans right now, what we're starting to work on is basically increasing the access to key locations through this period. Of course, Kingston Penitentiary is being first and foremost, but other primary locations, moving towards strengthening our revenue model, and also revisiting our revenue model, and then starting to expand our locations portfolio to also include and support some of the surrounding regions. So that's been some talks with RTO9, and with various different partners towards some long-term strategy. And then we've been continuing to develop this practicum training programs and workshops. So we trialed it with 20 students at Queen's University in the film and media program. All of them were able to get on set working on Murdoch mysteries. We were able to place a half dozen of them have moved into employment through the program. And our next phase had been to expand that out to partners, potentially LCVI, Holy Cross, St. Lawrence College, potentially Correctional Services Canada has a program. So we're seeing how that could work in timing for it, and how we can continue to do a lot of our professional development actions online. As we move into full recovery, so we're still hopeful that we can hit our target of 2 major tier 1 productions. So the day that everything broke, we're actually bringing an Oscar winner on a 5-day tour of Kingston for a 6-month science fiction feature. So that's currently on hold, but we're hoping that we can resume that when things get going. We also have a Paramount TV series tentatively scheduled for the fall that's likely to push into 2021 if it can move ahead. We also have a low budget feature that was still scheduled for late summer that we're also revisiting. So we're very hopeful we can rebound fast. I think film in general is going to be one of the sectors that will probably rebound fastest. And when that happens, we'll be looking at, again, hosting our specialized scout tours. So in the past, we've done general scout tours. Now we're looking at doing specialized into lifestyle, so we can support a lot of those accommodation partners into actual programming. And then again, continuing to present, participate at key industry events, and that's where we're just trying to see what that's going to look like. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Chris Wyman, manager of the Visitor Information Center. Thank you.
Unmuted. Yes, here we go. Well, again, the 3 phases that we're working on. Of course, right now we're in the construction of the new VIC, which is hopefully going to be completed by the end of summer. It's been up and down, of course, as you know, with the yes and no between people being allowed to do the construction and not being allowed to do construction. But every so often when I take a peek down there, there is lights on, so there's things happening in there. So it's going to be an exciting time when we do get a chance to open that up. And once we do, we're going to work on the interior, as Megan has mentioned, where we're going to put more integrated technology in there to basically deal with the people who have more integrated technology as their destination decider on what to do, where to go, and what to eat, and all that sort of stuff. Of course, we've got the reduced restrictions. We're going to relaunch the front line today to provide the tourism sector with key information. And of course, with Dave's help, launch chatbot as a virtual visitor service tool. We have been, of course, receiving a lot of emails from people actually inquiring about what's happening, and we're just basically keeping a list of these people who are trying to plan something for Kingston, and when things do open up, we will definitely let them know. Into phase 3, the full recovery, we're of course going to open the Visitor Information Center to the customers, and of course we'll have in place measures to make sure that the opening is a safe opening, and with respect to distancing and all that sort of stuff. So it'll be a new world for us in the visitor center for that sort of thing until there's a cure found for this invasive this flu. So we got a relaunch partnership program for 2020. We've had a lot of inquiries already for 2021. For 2020, we've had a lot of inquiries about people joining up with tourism to get involved. And we're going to work cohesively with the marketing team to create a visitor guide collateral that will be adapted to the current travel market. So things are still working with the people to try and get them to come to Kingston when it's eventually open and ready to go. Now I'm going to turn it over to Alison Migno.
Thank you very much, Chris. So again, following that 3-phase process for recovery, in phase 1, we're looking at leveraging our maker community. You may have seen the Together at Home campaign. And we're also running other online content and promotion, including a food and retail campaign. And just to give you a sense in terms of how those are performing, the food and retail campaign has led to more than 50,000 page views since launching in March, and accounted for nearly 6,000 referrals directly to operators. So we're really pleased with how that's been performing. We've also supported that with articles such as how restaurants have had to pivot or change their operations, breweries, creative industries. We did a Mother's Day guide, and May long weekend shop local guide. And this content has been really well received. The restaurant story in particular had a click-through rate of more than 24%. Industry average would normally be 0.09%. We usually see our work around the 2 to 3% mark, so 24% is pretty remarkable. On the Together at Home side, that ad campaign has had nearly 1 million ad impressions. It's resulted in more than 800,000 video views from the live streams that we're doing with makers, chefs, musicians, etc. And during this time, we've actually gained more than 1,000 followers on Facebook, which I think really speaks to the engagement, and Lexi will touch on that a little bit more in a few minutes. And of course, the Together at Home video that we released in April had more than 190,000 views. So we feel that that really connected really well with our community. Part of this phase includes also staying on top of research and being informed in terms of how we make our decisions for marketing and communications. So it's really critical that we have access to insights and understand the timing for recovery. So we're looking at Destination Ontario, RTO9, Destination Canada, and also broader industry insights to inform our next steps. And of course, we're actively planning for recovery in relation to marketing campaigns. Phase 2 would see reduced restrictions. So our local campaigns are likely to continue during this phase, with them being revised and refined based on the need. When public health and the province deems travel to be safe, and we feel the consumer insights are there in terms of consumer confidence, then we would look to launch a recovery campaign. And that would include promotional concepts to drive immediate travel. Just wait for the slide to change. Also would include product development, so potential recovery events and activations working with the city, festivals and attractions in the community. Value-added offers and discounts to drive conversion will be really important during this time. And we are planning a wedding campaign for Q4, which would support 2021 bookings, as we think that that is an area that is likely to recover pretty quickly, and people are booking well out in advance. So it's important to sort of get in market right within this year, even if we don't see full recovery yet. And then moving into full recovery, we will go out with a campaign with a full-length brand video. This brand video has actually been in production for the last year. Of course, we plan to come out with it in 2020. Now we're looking at 2021 for that. We would see our 25 things and event promotion resume. Value-added promotional offers will continue to be very important. And we would return to monthly and quarterly campaigns, increasing our investment in advertising. And now I'll pass this over to Lexi.
Awesome. So though this year has been really challenging with social reach trending down for everybody, you can see here that in the month of April, we're actually trending up for engagements and impressions. So impressions were up 6.1% in April, engagements 624.5%, and operator phone calls 96.5%. So this really shows the strength of the programming that we've run for the past 12 weeks with the Together at Home campaign. So the strategy that we're using, it's an integrated approach. So all the info shared on our websites, through newsletters, the local media, and our social platforms. Another thing, we're encouraging open lines of communications and support partners that lack digital resources. So this could be partnering with Kingston museums, anyone who's offering programming, and just reaching out to see how we can really help them. We're also tracking and capturing earned media. So this includes managing Google Alerts and seeing articles that mention tourism in Kingston. So updating and maintaining content on visitkingston.ca. So this comes through a variety of channels like our chatbot system, direct messages on social, and the Tourism Kingston team. Another thing in our portfolio is evolving the industry and consumer newsletters. So we're really refining and personalizing content. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we've shifted from event-based content to the specific things like the programs and our Together at Home campaign. We're really engaging partners, earning new subscribers. So before, this is on pause at the moment, but we were exploring contesting as a way to grow our industry and consumer newsletters. And also working with Abby. So Abby's been a great asset to the team, adding French language content to our newsletters. So they're now bilingual. And at this time, I'm just going to pass this on to Ella, our international travel trade coordinator, to chat about our social platforms in China.
Thank you very much, Lexi. So I'm Ella, an international tourism coordinator. So let's talk about WeChat and Weibo simply. So it's two influential social media channel in China, and the Tourism Kingston actually is really advanced than most of the MOs in Canada, and we had a very successful year last year. During the COVID-19, we have updated the daily local news, including restaurants, retail stores, breweries, and attractions informations for some people who wants to travel but cannot see the world under these special circumstances. So we answer the questions from the audience and have kept a good relationship with the Chinese audience and also the Chinese tour operators for both in China and North America. For our Chinese website, visit kingston.ca/cn. We consistently updating the new contents, including the Together at Home. So the page views shows that the viewer for the Chinese website were up to 412% in April. So that's a really good news. So we will try to make more people know our beautiful city, Kingston. So through back to Megan.
Thank you, Ella. And thanks to the team. I mean, this couldn't be done without the sweat equity of all of those that just presented in front of you. We have such a strong team at TK, and I'm really proud and honored to work with everyone on a daily basis as it relates to anything that it gets thrown to us and how we can solve it as a team. And that goes for Kingston Accommodation Partners too. We really are two organizations that work seamlessly together. So now it's your turn. So typically in a normal scenario, we would intermingle with one another, as we always do in tourism, because that's really where the true knowledge comes from, is interrelating with our partners and understanding how we can help you, understanding how or what we need to expand on in our portfolio to support. And so this is in the chat function in your webinar currently. So there's a little bubble at the top. We thought we could just have a bit of a dialogue. So if anyone has any questions as it relates to the infographics we presented from 2019, as it relates to anything that we're doing in the phase 1, 2, or 3 for recovery in any sector, or just general questions, we thought we could kind of get going and talk. And as that kind of the dialogue happens, I think more questions always kind of bubble up. And so it's kind of your turn now. So if you wouldn't mind, just kind of reflecting on what we've presented and ask us any type of questions you want to, then I think it would be great to kind of delve into some of those. So Tourism Kingston's asking me a question. So I'm kind of the moderator. I'll read the question and then I'll throw it to whatever staff makes the most sense to answer. So in travel trade, Abby, this question's for you. And I think you wrote your own question, so great job. So Abby, would you like to answer your question?
Yeah, that actually wasn't for me, but I can absolutely answer it. So the things that we're seeing in the industry are kind of this way that we framed our own recovery process. So every DMO, every client, every partner seems to be looking at 3 phases, nothing with hard timelines. Everyone wants to stay away from specific dates because we can't predict that. We all like to play the game of trying to figure out what's the next month going to look like, and we can't. So everyone's just making sure that they're ready for when the next step comes up and when we hear an announcement to move to phase 2 or potentially over to phase 3 if we can. For travel trade specifically, everyone is moving away from volume. So with physical distancing needing to stay until a vaccine is found or until treatment is found, they're saying we can't put people on motor coaches. And for a lot of travel trade companies, that's a really big hit because that's where they make their money. So now they're shifting to, okay, what does an FIT client look like? So how do we market to individuals? How do we see maybe if the general public who would be a leisure traveler would want to book through a travel agency for safety reasons? Because now they're looking at health and safety as being a priority. That's one of the biggest things we've seen as well, is health and safety will be the top priority for any traveler within the next year and a half. There are those that are considered the intrepid travelers who are, everyone jokes about the millennials who are trying to book trips as soon as flight prices dropped, and they will still travel, but it is a small portion of the population. So within the industry, there's a lot of work to do in just building that traveler confidence again and showing them that it will be safe to travel and that we're taking all these steps to ensure their safety. They are saying international travel obviously will just be based on flights, so probably within about 1 year to 2 years. Domestic will be first and then hyperlocal. So everywhere is looking at how do you encourage people in your area to start coming back to visit you again. The long lost idea of the road trip, which everyone felt like was a little bit old fashioned and was meant for family trips, is coming back. So how do we gear ourselves towards that kind of travel again? The biggest thing is just making sure that whenever you go into market, you're not being tone deaf. So being really sensitive to how our travelers feeling and then how our residents feeling. So we know that tourism is this incredible industry that brings in so much economic activity to the area. And how do we walk that fine line to make sure that both parties are confident in the return of travel? So it's a partnership between the DMOs, the clients, and great partners like yourselves that will make it really key in our recovery process.
Thanks, Abby. So our next question is, what's the status of the cruise ship dock terminal? So the Deepwater dock, as it's referred to, and B, is this going ahead? And C, any prospects for cruise ship business this year? So I can answer A and B, and then Abby, maybe you want to speak to cruise ship business for 2021 and beyond. So the City of Kingston just last week had basically a council discussion as it relates to, and all of us are dealing with, reduced budgets or restrictions on cash flow. And so the short answer is yes, that project is now on hold. It will be a discussion point going forward because, of course, it's part of the integrated destination strategy plan. It was also part of council's strategic priorities. I think what we need to do is revisit and understand what the economy is going to bring come September. And understand then as it relates to the beginning of 2021, where we stand in terms of council priorities and affordability of such. But currently it is on hold. And then Abby, cruise ship business for 2021 and beyond.
Absolutely. So for the remainder of this year, Transport Canada has come out to say that any large cruise ships in Canada are instead being banned until the fall. So that first date was supposed to be July 1st. It has been official, it's been moved. They are still looking at potentially smaller cruise ships, so some that within the Great Lakes that could operate, but they're seeing that they can't bank on that. They're all in a massive holding pattern of how do we even prepare for potentially only one trip this year. I think for Kingston, we won't see cruise ship traffic for 2020, but 2021 and moving forward, we actually have a good opportunity because the Great Lakes, being smaller ships, are considered to be safer cruising compared to those that are multi-thousand passenger ships. So it's a really great way to present the Great Lakes as a really safe destination, especially for American and Canadian travelers. All of the companies that we've been speaking to, so we hold places with the Great Lakes Cruising Coalition and Cruise the Great Lakes. So both of them are saying that the companies they're speaking with they're raring to go. They are so excited to get back out in the water, and they're offering some fantastic sales for all of their customers, and they're seeing demand. People want to get back on cruise ships. So hopefully we're able to leverage that for 2021 and beyond. There are actually a few companies that have said, just based on what's happening, because they're looking at smaller ships and a more expedition type cruising, the luxury market will be the first one to rebound. They go after expedition cruising. So they're to bring cruises in that potentially don't need the deep water dock straight away because they have their own tender ships to bring them back and forth. So they'll be the ones that we're going after for 2021 through to 2023 while we wait on the final news for the deep water dock.
Thank you, Abby. Another question relates to music. So sort of that music economy, obviously Kingston has a really strong, vibrant music scene. We all know this, and that's not just during, sort of the main visitor season. That really is all year round. And so maybe Alison Mignon, could you speak to the Together at Home series and our Friday night series as it relates to supporting local musicians? And then I can speak to the plans for what we're working on with the city as well as other partners for the downtown this summer.
Absolutely. So pretty quickly when the pandemic set in, one of the things we wanted to do was really support that gig economy. Of course, a lot of these folks, whether they're musicians or makers or even chefs or other artists, play a key part in the programs that we promote through our campaigns when the tourism season is normal. And so we really wanted to kind of approach that in two ways. One was to support those artists, but also to leverage engaging those artists in a way that would create engagement on our channels. Of course, it would be strange to continue trying to market visiting Kingston when nobody can and nobody should. But it's important to keep those channels engaged during this time. So we have been hosting since about mid-March, so we're about 12 weeks in now, a series of, we'll call them maker takeovers, live streams, first on Instagram, and then we moved over to Facebook after we did a bit of testing and realized we had stronger reach and more views on Facebook. 2 weeks ago, we also launched a Friday night music series. So we usually have 3 to 4 artists performing together, in a continuous live stream with a host engaging them. And all of those people that we're engaging in the live streams are paid an honorarium. So they receive $250, which we think is a good amount for the time that they're engaging with us. We really do want to support them. And during the Friday night music series, we also promote if they have a digital tip jar and try to encourage people to support them as well. So that's been going really well, and we've had really great response. And as we sort of roll into the summer and as restrictions are reduced and lifted and changed, we're just continuing to refine, sort of assess the success of those programs and just tweak them as we need to so that they're still sort of serving the musicians and serving the audience as well.
Thanks, Alison. And then just so our partners are aware, there are discussions as it relates to trying to animate and bring some creative concepts to downtown Kingston specifically. So looking at once restrictions are lifted on restaurants, patios specifically, trying to identify where patios can be open and then expanded, understanding how the downtown core, Princess Street, as well as side streets can be more pedestrian friendly, understanding how we can program that gig economy throughout that downtown space, and supporting types of, not just musicians, but other local makers and creators in that vision. So there are lots of discussions going on right now. More to come on that, but it's very, I think, positive to suggest that there will still be open to business vibe downtown, across the city, but specifically downtown as it relates to kind of this walkable, experiential portion of our city that we normally rely on as just an attraction in and of itself. So I think there's more to come on that, but very exciting. Two, I think we should probably just highlight a hyperlocal campaign. Yes, that's within our discussion points. I think you've all probably seen the We Love Kingston brand. That was a partnership with 5 different local organizations spearheaded by KEDCO. It's done amazingly well to support local entrepreneurs, local business owners. We want to expand on that as it relates to a hyperlocal, be a staycationer in your own backyard campaign. By campaign, I just mean using language to make sure that people are cycling through our economy and understanding that they can safely experience Kingston in their own backyard. And so, generally speaking, we would target that Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa market. We will not be doing that. So I just want to really clarify any kind of questions in that kind of zone is no. We will obviously still be active on social. We will answer any questions visitors have, but we will not be promoting Kingston to outside geographies until it's safe to do so. And so within our local KFL&A geography, absolutely, it's safe to discuss Kingston as well as all of the counties and communities that are around that KFL&A span. And we have talked to the health unit in regards to those conversations. And so I think in that vein, we will continue to support that Love Local campaign. But we will not do anything unsettling until it's safe to do so, and in terms of directly inviting other traffic into the city. So we've had 2 Friday night music series so far. They've been very popular and very successful, and it was a thematic, as Allison said, is like a Friday night kitchen party, if you will. And so our hope is that we bring that type of experience offline into that downtown experience that is worked on, and it continues to be worked on really hard by lots of community partners at this time. And Allison, any kind of specific feedback you've gotten from the past 2 Fridays, or Lexi also, in terms of the comments, the reach, anything that you see that you want to share with partners just before we are soon to wrap up?
Yeah, I would say they have been performing quite well. Certainly, this past Fridays, all the comments were very positive. Someone from Boston said that the Kingston music scene was amazing, so it was neat to see somebody, tuning in from quite a distance. And we noticed that even when the event is done, people are continuing to go and watch it, because of course that's the benefit of having this on Facebook, is that the video continues to live on. And so we're seeing sort of 4,000 plus views, usually on a weekly basis. And our hope, of course, is that over time that continues. But more than anything, we're really just trying to make people feel less alone, to provide some feel-good content and support the musicians.
Thank you. So that basically concludes our kickoff to Tourism Awareness Week. Every day going forward, we'll highlight a new sector within our community and talk about all the great things that particular sector is doing to support the local tourism economy. Of course, all of us are keenly, aware that it's, this forum is how we communicate, and so we're basically within our homes, or sometimes Brittany and I are in the office, but we're always willing to, stop what we're doing and have a conversation, even if it is just over, the fatigue of Zoom is setting in. I get it, but you know, important to understand that your sharing is our success. So understanding what your business plans are for the near future and for beyond 2021 is really important. So please reach out to us. That's what Tourism Awareness Week is all about, is making us or each other aware of what's going on in our community so we can support one another. But again, I'd like to thank all the partners that jumped on the line. I'd like to thank all the hardworking tourism businesses that are making it through 2020 as it relates to just taking it a day at a time. And I'd like to thank the staff, because without you, you know, these plans wouldn't be where they are today. So everyone have a safe start to Tourism Awareness Week, and we will all talk to you soon.